I think Sean told me right before this podcast that a fart around averaging 80.
Depends on the
because
person,
we're scientific.
Blue Dog Radio, get out there and blast, or whatever. I don't care.
Thanks for joining us today. Blue Dog Radio Podcast. We got episode 10 for everybody today. We're joined by Matt Sullivan. He works over at OceanIt, which is out of Honolulu. Is that right? Honolulu? It's out of Hawaii. I know
Honolulu,
that.
Hawaii.
Somewhere much nicer than here, nice and cool breezes and everything. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Matt.
Born and raised in Hawaii. Went to school on the mainland, as we call it. I'm based out of California, just north of LA. So I've been here for a while. And background in engineering and physics. And we've been working on in the acoustics area for probably, the company's been working on acoustics for 15 to 20 years. Our business at OceanIt is, we call it a mind to market business, but what that essentially means is we come up with new ideas grounded in technology and research, and then we build them into products and take them to market. So we're coming out with a quiet blast nozzle. We've been working on it on the research side for about 6 years. So it goes pretty far back, originating with work we did for the Air Force. And they really wanted us to figure out how to reduce the noise from their blast nozzles. And they're primarily using acrylic and plastic media on aircraft. So pretty low PSIs. And we had a lot of learnings there, us naively not really understanding the industry, the blast industry. Thought, hey, that's representative of everybody. Everyone's blasting at 40 PSI, but turns out most people aren't. So so we
not anybody listening to this.
Yeah, that's right. So that's part of why the research took so long. We ended up having to redesign our tech, and are working with the Navy now to design or to build a nozzle that's more tailored towards the rest of the industry. More conventional.
Well, before we get into the nozzle, because I mean, really, that is the meat and potatoes of why you're talking to guys like us, Blue Dog Blasting, is blast nozzles. But what I think is almost more fascinating is OceanIt as a company. I mean, you guys are you're not sandblasting. you got different arms of your company that deal with energy, nanotechnology, artificial intelligence, sensors and communication, as well as the manufacturing side of things, where you get into some of the aerospace and the national defense and everything like that. Feel free, take a moment and tell everybody what OceanIt is and what you guys do, and if anybody needs your service, how they can get in touch with you.
OceanIt is a very interesting company. We do a wide range of types of research. So, some examples are, we're in the nano materials business, nano coatings business, and we've been developing a suite of new materials originally for the Navy. A lot of our projects start with the military or different government groups, but we developed a treatment to put into thermal power plants. So most of the world uses thermal power generation to create electricity. So you burn coal or oil or natural gas or even nuclear. They all have this process where they convert energy, coal, into steam. And it's a pretty inefficient process. So we have a treatment that goes onto a condenser, and it makes it more efficient, which results in less fuel needed to burn for the same amount of electricity and less carbon emissions. So that's one example. We're working on hydrogen is the latest and greatest in the industry. Everyone is hot about hydrogen. So we're trying to figure out how can you use existing pipeline infrastructure to transport hydrogen. And there's a problem called hydrogen embrittlement, which is when hydrogen interacts with steel pipes and basically causes them to explode. So it's a big problem.
Minor,
You don't want your
minor
pipeline
problem.
blowing up with hydrogen. So we're working on that.
Pretty sure at some point we made a bomb out of that stuff.
Yeah, you know, hydrogen's been tried, seems like every 20 to 30 years, and you know, the industry is trying it again. You know,
Isn't
you have
it
some,
not New Zealand, but either Greenland or there's a small country somewhere. They're almost all their vehicles are hydrogen at this point.
yeah, I'm not sure exactly what country, but I'm not
About
sure.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, I'm a fountain of useless knowledge, and sometimes I don't even get all that right.
Yeah, so I mean, I can keep going on. There's a ton of other research. We're doing some cool stuff with the Navy around acoustics. We're working with Navy divers, so the guys that wear the big dive helmets, and they have a problem with going deaf because the regulator is so loud in their helmets that the DBs are, you know, causing them to lose their hearing. So we've developed a quiet regulator so that they can hear and communicate with their comms up above without cranking up that volume and losing their hearing. So it's been a fun project to work on.
That's interesting. I would have thought.
Never would have thought, right?
No, if anything, I would have thought, you know, being down towards the bottom of the ocean, you know, water is a resistor, so you're not going to get any of the sound waves. You're down there with your thoughts. I never would have thought that they have high decibel levels doing deep sea dives.
Yeah, if you're breathing in one of those regulators, the sound of the air, I guess, coming through the tube, it makes sort of a Darth Vader noise, and it ricochets through the helmet, and it's really, really loud. So yeah, so that's been a fun project. We're also working on reducing helium voice. So the divers also get helium voice because they have mixed gas when they breathe in, and they start to sound like Mickey Mouse. So the people up above can't understand what they're saying. So we're building a helium descrambler for them that just makes their voice sound more normal.
That's an interesting one. What is there any big project that, you know, the masses out there, people outside the government or the military would have heard of that OceanIt's done?
That's a good question.
Mention.
I see you guys are working on like a COVID-19 tester.
Yeah, maybe that. Yeah, we've been working on a rapid test for COVID. That's been
following that one up for you. Here's the Assure 10. Just hit it.
Yeah, that's been a wild ride. You know, as you know, cases are declining in the US. So I think, yeah, we're trying to rush through our clinical trials to get to FDA approval. But there's a big market outside of the US for testing. A lot of people don't have vaccines or don't want them. So testing is going to be around for a while. But yeah, we've been working with NIH, and they have a accelerator program there called RADX that we've been working with, and then also working with different government groups like DARPA and another one.
Oh yeah, so I was going to ask you, you kind of answered my question, your projects, how you decide which projects to pick up, and I'm guessing, like you said, a lot of the military and government, but do you guys have any other unique ways, maybe like through polling industries, to find out, hey, what are your biggest struggles? What things are you trying to solve that maybe a fresh set of eyes can help with?
Yeah, so we do a lot of work with the energy industry, and a lot of that sort of need finding process happens where we ask them, hey, what are your biggest problems to solve? And we take a look at our expertise and decide if we think we could solve it for them. So yeah, there's a lot of projects I can't really talk about because they're private contracts, but we do a lot of work with that. Also, we do a lot of work in Korea with companies there. We're working on as funny as it sounds, a new beauty cream.
Oh, there you go, Sean.
Kind of based in the nanotechnology world that we've been living in. But it's not something we would have.
Oh, you're gonna create Clayface from Batman?
How'd you know?
I need to stock up on that stuff for the old lady.
It's a very fascinating company that you have, man, and you guys are making some positive changes in the entire world. But this is Blue Dog Blasting, so let's get into blasting. You guys have a new nozzle coming out. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Well, what can I tell you? We're going to be selling them publicly starting in early July. We've been working with one of the large manufacturers in the US. I don't know if I can mention their name. Maybe you guys can. But yeah,
it's somebody we buy our nozzles from.
Exactly. Yeah, they've been making nozzles for us, and we're kind of ready for prime time. Yeah, as I mentioned, we've been working on this technology for about 6 years now with the US military, and it reduces the noise levels, sound levels coming out of the nozzle. So
was that
one of the
military's biggest concern? Was that the military's biggest concern with that process? Was the actual noise with the nozzle, or have they come to you with some other stuff that they want you to work on?
Yeah, this one was directly to reduce the noise coming out of the nozzle. So it's the biggest source of noise, and the military is very strict with OSHA standards and noise exposure standards. So there really isn't any way, once you implement sort of best practices like, isolating your compressor or your blower, moving it a little bit further away, adding some foam insulation, there's not a whole lot you can really do at that point if you're still above the permissible limits. So you really have to tackle the nozzle problem, which is a hard problem. Nozzles have pretty much been the same for, I don't know, you guys would know better than me, but a long time. The Venturi design is, a classic design's been around for a long time. So
yeah, not a whole lot has changed, and even the nozzles themselves, the differences between them is so minute, but it makes huge differences. The short Venturi versus a long Venturi, I mean, they're basically opposite nozzles, and all you did was put that little pinch point from one end of the nozzle to the other. So yeah, I mean, we've been doing the same thing for eons, but you guys have kind of redesigned things altogether, huh?
Yeah, and I think the challenge with this kind of a problem is it's not just the noise you have to pay attention to, it's all the other things. So blast operators aren't willing to sacrifice productivity to reduce noise. At least most aren't. And there's also a limited amount that people will pay for a nozzle. There's always the extreme user that's going to pay $1,000 or whatever for a nozzle, but most people aren't. You also have to be able to manufacture the nozzle, which, a lot of our projects that originate in research, sometimes we don't think about how would we make this at scale. So that's why, starting off early on with a manufacturer that knows how to make carbides is really important for us. So we could make this affordable, scalable, not affect productivity negatively, and also reduce noise. So that's kind of the full package that we were trying to achieve with this. And, when we first started, we developed a nozzle that would reduce decibels by about 30. So 30 dB, that's a huge decrease. But what happened is it reduced productivity, and blast operators just wouldn't use it. So we shelved that, and we went back to the drawing board and said, hey, how do we, reduce decibels by, 10 to 15%, but also maintain productivity? Because I think that's really the sweet spot. So that's what we ended up doing, is redesigning it to be the nozzle that we're coming out with in July, to eventually be something that people really want to use, not so much they're being forced to use.
Who is your target audience here? Are you looking more for, military or manufacturing facilities, the mobile blast industry?
Yeah, I think the people that have the biggest problem with noise that would want our nozzles are people that have blast booths. And there's a lot of PPE you can wear to make it less annoying to you as a blaster, but if you have guys on the shop floor around you, it's not a lot you can do to keep them from being annoyed and starting to yell at each other because they can't hear each other. So I think that's the primary customer group that we're trying to target, is people like that. But we're also trying to make it accessible to everybody else. So, we're trying to target a price point for our all poly nozzles at $200 or below. So, if you go out and you buy a number 6 long Venturi nozzle that's decent quality, you're going to pay 100 something. You guys would know better than us, but we're trying to make it
between 100 to 150.
Yeah, we're trying to make it not so painful that those guys, wouldn't want to try it at least.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a fantastic price point, because like you said, a normal long Venturi nozzle, which of course, they mass produce the crap out of them because it is industry standard. So if you ever buy a blast pot, most likely that's what you're going to get, is a number 5 long Venturi nozzle. But something like the XL nozzle, that's kind of the new hotness around the marketplace, which actually came out a couple of years ago. And we have another podcast all about it, that we talked to Larry from Kennametal, the company that makes those. Because it is 12 inches long, there's so much material that goes into it. Those are $400 nozzles. So to be a price point half of that, and you're going to have noise reduction without the sacrifice of production, I think that's amazing.
Yeah, I think the guys, if you're able to solve in our industry a major pain, people are willing to pay a little more, even maybe a lot more, to solve those issues. So price, I was expecting you to come up with a number that was much higher than what you quoted.
Well, I should caveat that we're also working on a more of a premium version that will have slightly higher performance for the people that really want to get it. But I think our goal is to really, noise is a big problem for this industry, and whether the blast operators care or not, it is affecting them and other people. So if we can make this an industry standard at a reasonable price point, I think that's really the goal here. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to help people, and that's why we're doing this. I mean, making money is part of it, of course, but the other piece is trying to make the world a better place.
There you go.
Yeah, that's right, man. That's right. Is your nozzle, so you get a little bit of noise reduction, and you don't sacrifice a whole lot of production, if any. May I ask what kind? Is it a short Venturi, long Venturi, straight bore, anything in particular?
Yeah, I would say the most comparable is a long Venturi. So the way that the Venturi effect works is that it's sort of it's a funnel, if you think of it as like a cone. So as the air starts to expand with the media, it starts to accelerate. So that's why you get, faster particle speeds with the Venturi. So ours is similar to that, but we also figured out a way to reduce noise while maintaining the particle velocity. So one of the problems, like the easiest way to reduce noise levels is reduce your pressure, right? But then you got to stand there twice as long to blast the same thing, and nobody wants to do that. So what we figured out is a way to reduce the air velocity while maintaining the particle velocity. So
is this technology that can also be used in other nozzles? So let's say the XL nozzle that increases performance. Are you able to use that technology, apply it to the XL nozzle, and then you've increased your productivity, but you've also decreased the decibel levels?
yeah, definitely. And yeah, we're working on a version that works like that essentially. But you know, the XL nozzle is already 12 inches long, or say. So this nozzle is going to be even longer. I know one of our competitors is coming out with a nozzle. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but I would imagine, you know, once you start, let's say just hypothetically, you get to a 20-inch nozzle, like how's somebody going to carry that thing? And how much is it going to cost? You know, do you need like a tripod to operate it? And at that point, is it even practical to use? So I think, you know, tying this back to the usability of the piece, I think that's really the question when you start to get to larger nozzle sizes and you want to combine like the XL properties with the quiet properties. So
I think
that's the challenge.
I think the extra length on the XL nozzle is one of the big selling features to me.
Mm-hmm.
I just blast only when we do testing, so I don't do it often, but it just feels a lot easier for me to maneuver than trying to bend a hose around or grab onto a small nozzle. So I don't know how far you could take that and that still be, you know, a win for me, but I don't think the length has ever really been an issue for me, at least. What about pressures? You guys still hear me? Sean just froze up. Okay. So I saw the testing you've done, and this one was at 5 psi. So we're talking Sean's customer base is, you know, they're running typically 90 to anywhere to 120, 130, 40 psi. Do you start to see the lowering shrink, the lowering of the sound as you go up in pressure, or does it improve the higher pressure you go?
Yeah, I would say that the sweet spot is probably 90 to 110 psi for our nozzle. You know, kind of going back to like what are the main conditions that people will use this in. So that's how we designed it. Once you start to get to like, you know, 140, 150 psi, you start to lose the effects of the noise reductions. And on the lower range, it should perform the same. You know, you should get the noise reduction. So yeah, I would say with our nozzle, you can definitely crank up the pressures too high, but for somebody blasting in a normal condition, it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, I was going to say your normal equipment is generally rated for around 150. So that seems to be kind of the max that I've ever heard people blasting at, is in the 140s range. We did a podcast where we talked with Dennis Casto over at I'm sorry, Dennis, I forgot something Cape Fear or something sandblasting. He was one of the first guys that we talked to that blasts at super high pressures, like 120, where, you know, a lot of guys, I think I think most guys are in that, you know, 80 to 100 range. And if they can get 100 out of their 185 compressor, they're happy. But I know Dennis is using some heavy duty equipment, and I've talked to a couple other guys that are running bigger compressors, you know, 300 plus CFMs, and they're cranking up the pressures to really maximize things. So I know they would be interested in something like this.
One of the challenges we had is taking this from a research laboratory condition to a field condition, because, you know, as scientists and engineers, we kind of try to control every variable, and we're like, this is exactly how you tune it. this PSI, this media, this setup, everything. You want to control it as much as possible. Then when you take it into the field though, people are like, this is how I do it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not measuring anything. So we've had to do a ton of testing in the field.
Yep.
With a lot of people to figure out, okay, can we map out essentially all these conditions of testing and performance? So we've been creating these grids of, different media, different pressures, different nozzles, different ways to measure noise exposure, because there's just so many things you can change. Even humidity, does that have an effect? For example, we've had people ask us if, what is it called? Sponge blasting. Sponge works with that.
Mhm.
Sponge media. So
Yep.
Part of the challenge for us is like there's so many different types of things to test that we have to prioritize what to start with first.
Mhm.
And I think, speaking with groups like yourself and others in the industry has helped us to figure out, okay, what is common to use in the industry and what is a little bit more niche. So that helps us prioritize what to test.
Mhm.
And definitely have a lot more to do.
That kind of brings me to what I was going to ask you about the testing. I actually had a little short conversation yesterday, interview with Danny Kerr. I know you're familiar with Danny. He's done some testing.
Yeah, we know Danny.
And he's got the dustless blast. He does 99% of his stuff dry, but that brings up the question to me, where does it perform better, with your wet blast or your dry blast?
Performs better with dry blast. That's how we designed it, or what we designed it for. Did Danny say if it performs with wet? We haven't done a ton of wet testing.
He didn't tell me anything about the wet side. I think he prefers to stick with dry, but he has that capability with that dustless blast right now.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest. That's not something we've really tested yet. I would guess it would work similarly, but it's one of those things that we have on our list to do, along with sponge and a bunch of other things, to see if it has an effect.
I'll give you some feedback Friday. We're going to test ours out on a greener blast, that and do some dry blast testing tomorrow and Friday.
Okay, awesome.
What about, and I'm going to do this regardless of what you say, but what about putting these things? Are you guys designing any of them for cabinet blasting?
I don't know what the difference is, to be honest.
Hand cabinet. So it would be kind of similar to your blast room, but inside the cabinets, whatever you can get with your arms inserted in there.
No, we haven't done much with blast cabinets. Are you going to be using a smaller than like a number 4 size?
Well, usually it's not ideal, but I'll just hook a coupling up to this and put it on, what we have out there.
It should work, Kev. We've got a 1.25 inch thread on our pressure cabinet.
It'll be nothing. It won't be anything scientific. It'll just give me an idea of.
Yeah, let's hook it up. Give it a try. Let us know what you find.
Will do. Cool.
I guess one interesting caveat is how you measure noise. So the best way to measure noise at the nozzle is to test it in an open air environment where you can move the compressor and all the noise sources away, and you just have the nozzle, because that's the best type of measurement. However, when people test it, there's often, if you're in a blast room, there's a lot of noise sources. If according to the OSHA standard, you're supposed to measure it on the blast operator, sort of at their chest. But, that's a better measurement than measuring it outside the blast room with doors shut. Because the further away you move from the nozzle, the more chance there is for other noise sources to interact with whatever you think the nozzle is doing. Mm-hmm. So that's been a challenge, or more of an education process, as we work with customers wanting to measure noise. Yeah, it's just, it can get really complicated really quickly. So that's just one of the challenges with this particular nozzle and measuring, you know, how well does it work for your situation and what are you trying to achieve too. Like we have a military customer that's trying to get below 80 decibels blasting at 110 psi,
Fuck.
and
Ha.
we're like we're like, okay, like I don't know, I mean, there's not a
This
whole lot
this
you can do to get
conversation
there.
is just about 80 decibels.
Yeah. I think Sean told me right before this podcast that a fart around averaging 80.
Depends on the
because we're
person, but yeah.
scientific.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whispering would be about 30 decibels, a normal conversation around 60 decibels, and a motorcycle engine at 95 decibels. So if they want to get at the nozzle quieter than a motorcycle going by, that's a challenge.
Yeah, and if you look at the OSHA permissible limits, I think it's 8 hours at 80 decibels or 90 decibels. I need to check, but it's quite low. So
It's probably
yeah,
around
that's the
that range.
challenge.
It's anywhere around that 80 to 90 decibels over a prolonged period can cause damage to the hearing.
Yeah. Most of the customers, I deal with a lot of manufacturers, and when I go into sell or service a blast cabinet, some kind of automation, their goal usually when their safety EHS gets involved is, hey, can you get this under 85, 80, 85 range to kind of meet requirements. I don't know if those are internal requirements, but that's always kind of a challenge. I don't think we ever really hit that mark. Like you
Yeah.
said, there's so many other things that
Yeah.
go as well.
And actually, I mean, if we're talking blast cabinets and blast booths, we already have the compressor noise and everything separated out. A lot of times that compressor is outside of the building running and we're piping in the air. These mobile guys, when you've got your 185 plus CFM diesel motor running, air hissing through lines with little leaks here and there on your Chicago fittings, and then a guy at the nozzle, man, that if you don't have hearing in, it's only going to take a couple minutes until you're laying in bed at night and you just hear beep.
Yeah.
So it's definitely an issue with the industry, and it's great that you guys are tackling it and offering a product to combat that.
So we don't have to even use this. I'm just curious. We talked about it on the phone a couple of weeks ago. You guys are going to be selling, I'm guessing you said direct for a while. Do you guys have any plans to include these as standard on any equipment packages, any specific manufacturers that are asking to have the Blast Ninjas part of their packages?
You know, we haven't gotten to that point. We've gotten a lot of interest from distributors, you know, groups that want to sell this to their customer base, and
Blue Dog.
like Blue Dog. You guys are at the top of the list.
Awesome. It's amazing, man. I don't know what you guys have really done as far as marketing and advertising and stuff. I started getting phone calls at Blue Dog Blasting, and they're like, "Yeah, do you guys carry the Ninja nozzle?" And I said, "What are you talking about? You mean the XL nozzle or the big gun nozzle or the high performance nozzle? Are you looking for a water induction? What is a Ninja nozzle?" And after doing some research, we finally found out who you guys were, what you were up to, and that started sparking the conversation to get you on and do this. So, I mean, whatever you guys were doing, you've already spurred enough interest that when you do find the right distributor channels and everything, you guys are going to be selling these things.
Yeah, I think we've just been lucky. I mean, we haven't done any marketing really. It's just been word of mouth, people hearing about it. We had our first OSHA inspector unofficially recommend a customer use our nozzle because of noise exposure issues they've had. So, you know, once OSHA starts recommending it, even unofficially. I mean, that's a milestone for us. I have no idea how they heard about us, but that's great. Yeah, great for us.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's important that you guys took the time to, and that's why I think we need more companies like you guys out there supporting at least our industry, where we can get a fresh set of eyes, somebody who's not all wrapped up in the money making of the coatings and surface preparation industry. Because you could have easily just rolled this out real quick and taken your first attempt at it, and probably would have not been so popular. But the fact that you've really concentrated and made sure that you can keep that productivity level up, because really I know a lot of guys who own businesses. I'm not going to say big companies do this, but a lot of guys who own their own businesses that will gladly sacrifice a little bit of that safety cushion to be more productive, because that's kind of the name of the game in the industry. That's how they are able to quote better. That's how they're able to finish their jobs faster, make more money. So
Yeah. Well, and I do want to just add, like, this isn't you and a buddy in your basement trying to come up with a quieter nozzle. You guys are physicists and scientists with masters and doctorates and engineers. We're not talking a group of dudes hanging out, drinking a beer and going, we should make something quiet.
yeah.
Yeah, we have, there's definitely a team behind this. I'm the guy that's been trying to turn the research into something that's a product that's useful, that's easy to explain to the industry. But yeah, there's, OceanIt's about 200 people, and there's probably 10 people, researchers, engineers working on this in the background behind the scenes. And yeah, we've been doing this for a while, like I said, 6 years in the making of just continuous improvements and testing and reports to our government supporters. And it's been a slog, but glad that we're here today. Glad that you guys reached out, and means we're doing something right, that you heard about us and wanted to talk with us. So
Sure.
Yeah, and then to your distributor question, our OceanIt's business model is to create research and then to license or sell the technology we develop to the industry, whoever's the largest, most interested party in the industry. So that's our plan with this. We're looking for, groups like Kennametal that are experts and leaders in the industry and can take this and make it a industry standard. But what we found with every industry and every new technology is you have to prove that it works, and you have to prove that people want it. So that's the stage that we're at right now. And by getting to market, getting it in customers' hands and getting feedback, that really helps us to move this to a successful exit for us. And then we can move to other things. Like you said, we've been looking at blast hoods, blast helmets. How can we improve them? Seems like there's a lot of room there, and a lot of similarities actually with the dive helmets we've done for the Navy. So, better sound insulation
for you.
I was just gonna say, I got a list. If you got a minute or two, I'd like to go through with you.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I'd love to hear it.
And all I ask is, I don't need any big check or anything if this goes through.
He just needs his name associated with the product and royalty checks for the rest of his life, and then he's good. Done.
Done.
A little.
No, see you next week.
And this time, don't take 7 years. I want to be in the industry still when this happens. Oh, I look forward to testing. I don't know if we're gonna test tomorrow, but we're definitely Friday. So love to give you the feedback and maybe have you back on at some point and just talk about the results.
Sure. Something we've been thinking about for a while is a subscription model for nozzles. There's a bunch of, new consumer models like razors, for example, where you subscribe, you get a new one every month or whatever. Have people tried that in the industry for nozzles since they're a consumable?
I know
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I would say the closest thing to it is the company I work for. We do service contracts where we have a specified increment, certain amount of time where we go out and we service the equipment and we'll replace a nozzle, maybe gaskets and stuff like that, but nothing subscription based.
Yeah. And we've talked about it. Like I said, because we do turn so many nozzles, it was something that I had thought about and we brought up with the team. And the problem is, so even if it's the exact same nozzle, some guys are using crushed glass, some guys are using sand, which don't use sand, guys. Some guys are using aluminum oxide, some guys are using garnet. These are all different hardnesses and we'll have different wear rates for those. And there's also guys that blast once in a while, and there's other guys that blast at least 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you'd have to customize everybody's schedule. It would literally have to be, I mean, it would be the same with the razors. For me, I need one razor and then I'm good for the rest of my life because I don't shave. But somebody that's got to shave every single day, versus somebody that likes a little 5 o'clock shadow and they shave every 3 days or something, they're going to go through razors at a different rate, and nozzles are kind of the same. It all depends on what they're blasting with, what pressures they're blasting, and how often and how many hours they're putting through that nozzle. And really, I think that would probably be the point of entry for a company like yourself, is kind of like an odometer type of thing that you would hook at the base of the nozzle so that you can sell how many hours have you put onto this nozzle.
Yeah, we've been talking about that, of ways to measure wear, but it's a hard problem. And if you're expecting a blast operator to do it, it's even harder because they're not going to do it.
No.
We've tried that with simple things, just trying to get an operator to track their blast hours, and it's, especially when your schedule is so inconsistent, that's gonna be hard to do. But while you're on that topic though, real quick, I saw something about 400, was it 300 or 400 blast hours before you had to replace?
Yeah, it'll be pretty equivalent to a tungsten carbide insert. So it'll just depend on the carbide that we're using. So we're going to have a variety of different carbides, and each comes with its own wear resistance.
Sean, I'm clicking a little note here right now saying nope. I'm ready. I'm ready to test.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly what we're going to do in the next couple days here. Matt has graciously sent us a Ninja nozzle, so you can look to the Blue Dog as well as Mobile Blaster YouTube pages. We're going to do some testing and try to, our non-scientific OceanIt way of doing things. We're going to be out there and blasting with these things and give a little bit of feedback on them and have some video footage so everybody can watch. But in the meantime, it's been awesome having you, Matt. You guys are doing an awesome thing for the entire globe, besides just the sandblast world, with OceanIt and the companies that you guys are running and everything that you're doing over there. And it was great having you. We definitely appreciate it. And really the only thing left is to get out there and blast.
Get out there and blast. We ain't getting out here. Matt, you're not in the industry, but you're gonna tell us to get out and blast, aren't you?
Get out and blast, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Blue Dog Radio. Get out there and blast. Or whatever. I don't care.